Hey, this is Dr. Bushman, and I am filming this for the other instructors that will teach the MAN 3503 course, just updating and talking a little bit about the new course structure. It's actually not all that dissimilar to the original course that was written. But it's been updated, and there are some new aspects to it, maybe 25% to 30% or so is new. We did this for MAR 3802 when we piloted it. And after a couple of or 3 semesters getting feedback from other instructors, getting feedback from the students, we recognize there's always things that we can improve. And so this is a little bit about that process, or actually, this is part of the process of doing that for MAN 3503. And I'm really looking forward to getting more feedback from you as instructors as we move forward. So, one of the things that is really important and that we kind of learned as we've been going along, both in 3802 and in this course, 3503, risk management, is that there's a team element to both of the classes. Now, there's always been a team and a lot of teamwork in this course from the beginning of this design. And we've just enhanced that a little bit because we put a new presentation in Module 2, and it's on the skill sets that hiring managers are saying that college graduates are missing, especially Gen Z. Matter of fact, so much so, one of the large business journal reported that 31% of hiring managers are shying away or just saying, I'm not going to hire a Gen Z because they lack certain skills. So what we did is we put a little presentation based on market reports so that the students can understand why the teamwork exercises are so important in this class and just in general when it comes to getting a job and being in the workforce. So we also included a team dynamics presentation. I'd say that the team dynamics presentation is one that I've used, and the team charter assignment is actually also part of Forbes #1 ranked book for building teams. It's called Good Team, Bad Team. Just so happens the author of that book is a friend of mine, and they also own the Foresight Group, if you're familiar with that assessment, team collaboration model. But we went through the same doctoral program together. So I always let the students know, hey, this team charter thing is a world best practice, and it's part of one of the books that Forbes recommends for leaders and for anybody that's working in the workforce. So that presentation comes with some support materials, including a template that the students must use in that assignment because it guides them through 4 of the 5 stages of team formation. The only one we don't cover is, when the teams disband, which is step 5. But we do cover formation, forming, storming. Forming, norming, storming, and performing stages. We also just covered team basics, like what is a team? Most colleges and universities create what are called pseudo teams and their team assignments, but we want our students to experience what a real effective team is. And that goes a little past a work group into teams that actually have interdependent goals, and then they have to rely on each other. And in this case, they're relying on each other for their grade. 35% of their overall grade is based on the teamwork, 25% on the team assignments, 10% on the final project. Now, some of the students who are naturally high performing students have complained, well, I don't want my grade to be based on someone else. Maybe they don't feel like is performing as well. Well, here's the good news is that the team assignments, and I really hope you communicate this to your students, actually traditionally and historically elevate the overall school for all the students. And here's why. As an instructor, I take the attitude and I build my courses with the idea that this is a learning journey. I don't expect perfection out of the gate. What I do expect is for them to put forth effort and for their work to evolve and get better throughout the course. So, what I do is I let the teams turn in their team assignment and I critique each one. I give them very deep and thorough feedback in regard to what was great in areas where they could improve. And then I ask them to fix the areas where they can improve and resubmit their assignment. Now, teams that have already gotten an A usually don't do that. But teams that have gotten a B, C, or many times a D are grateful for the opportunity to fix what was wrong, resubmit. And most of the time, those resubmissions get B's and A's. It also helps the team gel, shows how real teams work in the workforce. If we turn something in as a team that, is a draft or something to our bosses, they're going to give us feedback and they're going to give us an opportunity to fix it, sometimes more than once. So anyway, excuse me there. So that's something that's important to communicate to the team. Now, I did just film a little video announcement in regard to that point, and I put it in the new shell, the blueprinted shell, and I did push it out to everyone's course. So I hope it's there. If it's not, I can send it to you, and you can send it to your students because it's still week 2, and so they still have an opportunity to learn it. The other thing that we've instituted is that we've found that the teams that were not gelling, the teams and the team members who were not really, participating well, they also, when I asked them and kind of looked at what was going on, the video on team dynamics and whatnot, they're like, yeah, I viewed it. Yeah, well, they viewed it for 30 seconds. And it's a long video. It's probably longer than it should be, to be honest. And so they're saying, yeah, I viewed it, and we just took them on their honor. And the reality is they didn't. Therefore, they have no grid, no idea how important it is. They don't know anything about the team dynamics, how the team should work, how to do the team charter, and it caused issues. So, or it seemed to be causing issues. So what I did is I now created a quiz, and they have to score a 90% or above. It's only 15 questions, but those 15 questions cover both the skill gap video presentation, and the team dynamics video presentation. And there's virtually no way that they can get a 90% or more without actually watching the videos because the questions are very specific and they come from places all throughout both those videos. So that's just a simple, checksum to make sure that the students are actually viewing it. And my expectation is that should help address some of the students who maybe didn't see the importance or why the teamwork was so important. So that's of utmost importance. The second part of the course, and this is new, and if you taught any of my other courses, you know that I put real world software in those courses. Mural, we use that. We also use that in the new ENT 2612 that's coming out in the fall on creative leadership. We use Canva versus PowerPoint. PowerPoint is, been widely known, right, as one of the worst communication modes out there. But Canva is actually a true creative program, and you can use it for many, many, many different things. And so we use that in this class. And in the Canva exercises, we're doing both diagrams. So they learn how to start diagramming and doing some mind mapping. Well, you know what? Take that back. That was that's in MAN4045, where they use it for mind maps. In this class, they only use it for presentations. My apology. They're using Lucid Charts as their real world software application to do the basics of um, business process mapping and notation 2.0. That is a real skill. I know that we all know it, that you can put on your resume. And so when they're doing the lucid charts, it's important to communicate to them that this is a real world skill that they're learning, and they can then go on to the project management courses that actually use, uh, BPMN 2.0 as I believe anyway, as a scored skill in the class. So we're teaching them the basics on how to do lucid charts and how to use the software to actually build charts, diagrams, and that what. And at the same time, what are they building? They're literally building charts and workflows from the textbook. They're building the 5 or 6 foundational data visualization tools that risk management uses. And so not only are they learning that real world software, but they're also learning how to build data visualization tools that they're going to use hopefully for their lifetime, because these things span tons of professions. And I know that you know that, but it's important to convey it to them. And I always, you use an illustration, for instance, when my wife worked for the public defender's office, she was the only one in the office that knew how to use Excel. And then she took more classes on Excel, learned how to do data visualization, pivot tables, advanced Excel. And when promotions and openings came up, she was the only one in the PD's office that was qualified, and ended up, director level type role because of that. And, today she is deep into AI and she's just run with it. But it's that's just an example for our students so that when they're applying for a job and they're the only ones that have lucid charts, BPN, business process mapping and notation 2.0, those kind of things on their resume, not just that they know what they are, but they've actually used them. They've actually built team charters before. They know what that process looks like. I didn't learn those things until well into my corporate career. I didn't, what's a facilitator? What's a timekeeper? Who's a conscience? And so we're just helping them with those basic items that they need to use. And then the point, of course, is if they have a good team charter, then it sets them up for success in the team assignments. So I'm sorry if I belabored the introduction, but I think it's super important to understand the methodology or the philosophy behind the design and the methodology. So I'm going to share my screen out and let's just quickly go through the modules, so we can actually kind of look at these and go, oh, okay, here's some expectations. So in module 1, there's a couple of lucid chart assignments. This first one is literally sign up for the account, play with it, watch the tutorial videos, create something and turn it in. I don't care what it is. Just draw me some kind of a map. There's a few little guidelines in there, like add a title, just some elements that they need to put in there. It's super duper basic. It's like the first time you ever used, a light bright, right? You gotta understand how to put the thing behind it, put the right colors in the right spot. And your first light bright didn't look right, quite right. Well, similar concept. The second assignment, however, expects them to use a process map from the textbook. And what I simply ask them to do, or I don't expect perfection. Create something that looks like this, that at least shows a process. I do highly encourage them to add color because, as a former color scientist, and in communication, we all know that color helps our brains, not only understand and comprehend information, it also helps us to process it. It helps us to retain it. and it helps us to be able to actually remember and apply what we've actually viewed. So I really encourage them. I also teach them and start teaching them about ADA compliance, which is part of BPN, Business Process Mapping, and Net Notation 2.0, such as making sure that your text is at least 10-point font and a diagram, and making sure that your background color and your text have enough contrast so that it's easily read. Again, we're just feeding these things throughout the class to them as they turn in their assignment. So I don't expect perfection, but I do expect something that portrays this process. If they get something that portrays this process, they're getting a B or above. If it looks just like this, they're getting a, a low A, high B. If it's got color in it and it looks just like this, they're getting a high A, you know? So again, it's they're going to learn. Now, be aware, you should take a very close look at this to make sure that a student just doesn't copy and paste it. I have had that happen a couple of times, and usually you can tell. And if that happens, I simply ask them to send me a link to their Lucid chart diagram. Lucid Charts should be able to put out a link to the diagram, and at that point, usually the students resubmit the assignment. It's only happened a handful of times, though. So I'm going to back out of here. And again, part of the reason why I'm sharing this is to help us set expectations for the students so the students don't feel overwhelmed. So again, in Module 2, here's that team dynamics quiz, right? When you open the quiz, and I'll have to go to build. You'll see the 2 video presentations they need to watch. And then again, it's only 10 to 15, 14 questions. But I have to score, I think, an 80 or 90% on it. Might be an 80% on this one. But it's at least a checksum so that we can know, hey, they've at least given it a shot. Again, in Module 2, the risk control diagram. We're using a diagram right out of the book. Why are we doing that? We want to, while they're building the diagram in Lucid Charts, they're learning, their brains remembering and regurgitating the process. They're adding color to it, hopefully, again, helping them remember and comprehend and retain the process. And then lastly, they're learning again to use the Lucid Charts tool. I don't expect it to be perfect. I just expect it to be better than their first attempt. And so again, I have very few students that get below a B on this. Because if it's got the process and I can understand the process, it's a B. If it looks a lot like this and has color, it's a high B, high A, right? And so this is just how the course is designed. And again, this is something that I believe should be explained to the students so they feel a little bit more comfortable about learning the software, takes the pressure off of them, doesn't make them feel like they have to be perfect at it, right? And then finally in Module 3, what we do for the ESG diagram, and for some reason the preview didn't load, and it is possible that I actually took the preview out. I don't know why, but in their book, in chapter 3, there is an ESG diagram. And so that covers the environmental, social, and governance domain for risk management. What I asked them to do here is this. This is super important. Interpret the diagram. Now they're moving to the next step, where they're just not drawing the diagram, they're interpreting the diagram. Now, actually, where I've placed the diagram, and I just remembered why it's not in the assignment, is they have a template. In my classes, they have to use the template. If they don't use the template, I simply reject the submission and I hit the resubmit button or assign button. I contact them and let them know the templates in this course are mandatory. One, that is to help prevent the use or inappropriate use of AI on the assignments. And two, it helps us as instructors grade the assignment because we know what is in there and we know what to expect. But the big deal is they're looking at this, and what I expect for them is for them, and yeah, they look a little complex, is to just simply, can you tell me what they're trying to communicate here? And you would, my students, maybe not all of them are happy about it, usually really get it. They are able to find an example or a case study that they can relate to ESG, and they usually put it in the paper. And so, again, we're in the learning process, so I don't grade these really stiff. If they understand and they're doing some interpretation, they're doing the best to analyzing the meaning of these diagrams. That's what a manager has to do. You know, we have to take data, we have to look at that and interpret it. And one of the stories that I tell you, it's a difficult story to hear, but it really has hit home with my students when I'm doing the blended classes. And I tell them the story about how the engineers at NASA knew that the space shuttle was more than likely going to blow up. Whatever that fuel rocket that's out on the side of it. And their boss, they did not convince their boss or present the information in a way that convinced their boss to take that to their boss. And 7 people died. And so, as part of risk management, it's not just learning what it is and the tools that are used. I really focus on the application and use of the tools because that's what risk managers have to do. If no one listens to us as a risk management, then what we're doing is not effective, and some might say useless. And so we want to make sure that they're taking that next step. So let's back up again to the module. And this is where they choose their B corporation for their team assignment. And they also do their first team presentation. So in the final team project and throughout all of their team projects, they're going to, in Module 3, choose a B corporation. I choose B corporations and companies from AIM to Flourish in all of my courses because it dovetails into our sustainability program at St. Pete College. It also models ethical companies who have to meet certain metrics that prove that they're doing business in a sustainable way, that they're doing well while doing good. And B corporations are the model for that. Matter of fact, I think they are. I don't think, I know. A B corporation is that has that status. That's why it's called a B corporation. And what they do is when they pick this B corporation out, every assignment that they do now as a team is based on this B corporation, and each one of the assignments they do contributes to their final team project. So basically, their final team project is a combination of all of the other team assignments that they've done starting in Module 3 through 7. And then in 8, they put it together and present. So I think that that's a great way to do it. Now, where the risk management analysis tools start is in their first team assignment. And what I recommend for the teams is that one person or 2 people do the root cause and the fishbone, the Shigawa diagram, and somebody does the force field analysis. And I'm sorry, I see a typo right here. It says force field. I'll change that so it says force field. And it also teaches them, how to use Canvas appropriately if they haven't done it before. And I make sure that they have a little vignette of them, just like in this video. You can see me presenting another workplace skill. And also, AI can't replicate them in a vignette in Canvas during the presentation. So once again, we're making sure and adding a little ethical use by making the assignments AI resistant. And again, here are the guidelines for that. But what I expect, and here's where teams miss it. They won't read all the instructions or listen to the assignment. I don't want you to tell me what a 5Y and a 6M analysis is. I want you to do a 5Ys and a 6M analysis on your B corporation, and that's what you're presenting on. I don't want you to tell me what an Ishikawa diagram is. I want you to use an Ishikawa diagram and analyze your B corporation with an Ishikawa diagram and present that. I don't want you to tell me what a force field analysis is. I want you to conduct a force field analysis on your B corporation and present that. Put that in your presentation. Again, first time they've ever done it, very lenient. If the teams miss it, and a lot of teams will just, well, this is what it all is, and they will not make it relevant to their B Corp, they usually get a very low grade, C minus at best, C minus usually if they're not applying it. And then I explain to them, hey, here's what you missed. You did a great job of telling us, telling me what these things are. But the assignment was to actually analyze your B corporation with those tools. So I want you to go back, add a little segment to each one where you're telling me about your B corporation in regard to these analysis tools and resubmit. If they do, they get an upper B, and a lot of times they get an A. Again, they're learning together as a group. They're each learning different tools. They're dividing the work. And when they come back together, their sum is greater than the individual parts. And therefore, it elevates their overall grade. So trying to go through this as fast as I can, but I want to be thorough, to help with you and the process, as you teach. And the rest of the assignments are exactly the same thing. And the balanced scorecard, right? And oh, by the way, when we get into these lucid charts, already has templates for all of this. So I give them, that's an actual screenshot of a chart from Lucid Charts. I give them the link and how to choose and it's explain where to find the Lucid video series, and all they have to do is literally choose the template and fill it out. So at this case, we're giving them a break. They don't have to design anything from scratch. The templates are already there. So now we're at the point of the class where they can concentrate more on doing the analysis part of the B corporation, applying what a balanced scorecard is. And similar as we go down, same thing with ORMF. And I think that is the team presentation. We do, and we use what is called a pair model. These are 4 risk areas. I'm sure you're familiar with them. And we do the 5x5 heat matrix. I do still include how to make one of these with Excel if they want to use Excel. But Lucid Charts is a live diagram where all they literally have to do is go and fill it out. So again, they go in, they analyze their B corporation, they fill out their heat maps and create their presentation as described. And if the students use weird, funky colors, because for whatever reason, Lucid Chart says like a light blue, pink, and purple one or something. I'm like, that really in corporate America, that's not going to slide. Red, green, blue, maybe add orange in there. are the traditional. So, next time moving forward, don't use a blue, pink, purple one. Use the traditional model. And most people do pretty good on this one. And at this point, we're introducing the pair model, which is also in the book. So the pair model simply, in this one, they're going to look at people and environmental risks. So they're only looking at two areas, right? And then later on, we'll show them how to look at the others. True. And so they do reputation risk analysis and the team assignment in module 5. And then as part of the A, the financial risk, they do the Basel II framework. And again, they're provided, I think this is a team presentation, and they walk through the Basel II framework, and they analyze the B Corporation based on the framework. And this is the framework. So basically what they do is they simply break the team. Somebody covers credit risk, capital assessment, disclosures. Usually there's something in there in regard to legal and whatnot. And I encourage them to look up the 10K report, because all of the B corporations are publicly traded companies, and they'll be able to find their 10K or go to their investment page. They'll be able to find the annual CEO report, which contains all of this information. And if they can't find that, I'm like, listen, make it up. It's okay if you can't find the information, fabricate it, make it up. In this case, I'd be like, use ChatGPT, have them make something up that would apply to this company, and go ahead and present that, because sometimes the financial information is a little harder to find. I'm more interested in the fact that they understand the model and how to apply it in risk management. So I hope that makes sense. And again, we're on a learning journey. And in 7, basically this team discussion, all this is for an opportunity for them to get in a forum and discuss their final project. That's it. Study their global supply chain risk, and give the team some ideas on how you might address that. And then finally, they do the human factors, HR part of the organizational change, and all of this particular funnels back to B corporations, one of their areas that they are evaluated on. And then finally, in their final assignment, they take all of that body of work that they've been working on for 5 weeks, and they literally just put it together in a presentation. Now, if you've been teaching this course for a long time, you recognize this rubric. This is the exact rubric that's been in the course for like a decade, only modernized. And so some of the key areas that in terminology that is used now has been updated. So this didn't change all that much, except we're using the parent categories, right? People, environment, assets, and reputation. We're using a B corporation as opposed to some generic case study that might be 20 years old, provided by some publisher in a textbook. Our students are going out and looking at a live company that's functioning today. And so the information's, fresh, right? And so all we did was simply adopt the final project that was there in the past. And we literally, the only thing we added here is that instead of just saying root cause analysis, I've been more succinct and asked them to do the 5 whys and 6 M's, because that's the root analysis or the root cause analysis, one of the tools used and it's specifically used in risk management. We use, in other areas, we use other ones, but this is more akin to our textbook and our topic. And That's there's not that much different. The only other thing is that they presented their presentations live, or they videoed them and submitted that. So in my class, I have them use Canva, just like they have all semester, and all the time when they submit a Canva, they're exporting an .mp4 file, and that's what they submit. And so this actually makes their week 8 final assignment pretty easy. And again, my goal in this course isn't to, and I'm going to stop my share, uh, have this pass fail, um, this pass fail mentality, but to have a mentality of learning journey and helping the students learn over time. And because most of this is team exercises, if there's 5 teams or 4 teams, we only have to grade 4 or 5 submissions for 35% of the class. This allows us to drill down as teachers and give that deep feedback that the students need to learn. And so that's the idea behind, an additional reason behind the way the class is built on the team assignments is because, if we're busy grading 1,000 assignments, it's not possible, humanly possible, to give the kind of feedback that I know we all want to. And so when we have the team assignments and there's only 4 to grade, we can dig deep and we can coach them. And so I hope this helped a lot. I know I went a little long, and I'll be getting together with everyone soon and get your feedback. What do you see we can fix? How we can make it better? Do we need to remove something, etc.? And I appreciate your input greatly. Thanks and take care.